Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravadakacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Savaya Chalana Davakapadanda Goswami Shiva Prabhupada Jai. Hiskan Founder Acharya Shiva Prabhupada Anandakoti Vaishnav Vrindikajai Namacharya Shiva Hoidas Thakur Jai. Ramse Kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrindikajai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopavata Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathurnam Ki Jai Jagadada Sami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Sita Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari. So before reading from Bhagavatam, we want to speak a little bit about Sita Devi, who is the consort of Advaita Acharya, whose appearance day it is today. So, Om Ganat Timidandasha, Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmilitam, Yena Tasmai Shigadavan Maha. So Sita Devi is the consort, or the wife, of Advaita Acharya. Of course, Advaita Acharya is the manifestation of Krishna's expansion as Mahavishnu and also Sada Shiva. And he performs many different pastimes with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, it was his calling for Lord Chaitanya's advent that is the exoteric, that means the apparent cause of Lord Chaitanya coming down, because he was very concerned with the conditioned souls, and he prayed to the Ganges, offered tulsi leaves, and ultimately Lord Chaitanya appeared. So Advaita Acharya was married to Sita, his wife, and his wife is considered, that is Sita is considered, an incarnation of Yogamaya. Yogamaya, of course, is the internal potency of the Lord that assists the Lord in his pastimes. Also, Yogamaya in Krishna Lila is called Purna Masi. And Purnamasi is the mother of Sandapani Muni, which is very interesting. Sandapani Muni is Krishna's spiritual master when Krishna went to Ujjain to take instruction. And she's also the grandmother of Madhu Mangal. I think everybody knows who Madhu Mangal is. Madhu Mangal is a very funny Brahmin friend of Krishna. So she's a very important person. So she had a relationship with Lord Chaitanya in terms of Vatsalya Prem. Vatsalya means like parental relationship. Of course, she and Advaitacharya were far older than Lord Chaitanya and far older than Lord Chaitanya's mother and father, Sachi and Jagannath Mishra. So they were basically like grandparents in relationship to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, she was the one who gave Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the name Nimai. So Nimai, of course, he was called Nimai because the Nim tree under which he was born is considered very auspicious because the Nim leaves, they can cure all sorts of diseases. I think you have some Nim trees here too in Fiji. And the Nim tree is supposed to drive away all inauspicious things like ghosts and other problems like that in one's life. Sita Devi is also a disciple of Narada Muni. It's interesting. Purnamasi is a disciple of Narada Muni. So there's some interesting things that happened when Lord Chaitanya was living in Navadvip, Mayapur, during the early days of his pastimes. Of course, the later days, after he was 24 years old, he took sannyas and left Mayapur. So during the early days of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Lord Chaitanya would regularly go over there to take prasadam at Sita Devi's house, that is Advaitacharya Sita Devi's house. And Sita Devi and Advaitacharya generally lived in a place called Shantipur. Shantipur is quite some distance away from our Mayapur Dham. I guess it will take about an hour and a half to walk from Mayapur to Shantipur. Generally, we don't walk that distance. So, and also Advaitacharya had a house right next to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's house in Navadvip. So he had two houses. And if you go to Mayapur Dham, which is part of Navadvip, Navadvip means 9 islands. So if you go to Mayapur Dham, right next you'll see a place called Advaita Bhavan. Anyone been there? No one's been there. Advaita Bhavan is right next to Lord Chaitanya's appearance place. You've been there? You must have been there. And anyway, so we go, and that's right next to Srivas Angam too. Srivas Angam, of course, is the place where Srivas Thakur would hold the nocturnal pastimes. That means nightly pastimes. And they go on all night, and some of them would go for 72 hours. So all these devotees, they live very, very close to each other. So what happened, several pastimes that occurred during Lord Chaitanya's advent. One pastime is that one time Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to get Advaitacharya, Advaitacharya wanted Lord Chaitanya to be angry with him. Interesting pastime from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. That what happened is that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always offering respects to Advaitacharya. And Advaitacharya didn't like that. Because Lord Chaitanya was following the etiquette that's there. Etiquette is if someone is your elder, you offer respects to them, right? And Advaitacharya was certainly externally the elder of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Advaitacharya was considering the ontological position of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which means who he actually is. That is, he is the absolute supreme personality of Godhead, and all other incarnations and expansions, such as Advaitacharya, come from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You understand? So in one sense, Lord Chaitanya is superior to Advaitacharya. In another sense, Advaitacharya's superior from an external viewpoint, because he was much older, an older Vaishnava. And from an external viewpoint, it appeared that he took to Krishna consciousness before Lord Chaitanya did. Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not manifest his Krishna consciousness until he took initiation from Ishwara Puri in Gaya. So you have this different conflicts of etiquette where there's an older person, and then who was actually superior in an actual sense, we call it ontological sense, an actual sense, who was Lord Chaitanya. So there's a conflict. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like, Advaitacharya did not like it that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always offering him obeisances and respect. So Advaitacharya had a plan to sort of reverse everything. And his plan was that he started to teach a bogus philosophy about Krishna consciousness called the Yoga Vasishta, which is like, not quite impersonalism, but it's just like ignoring the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he began to teach this, and when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about that, he decided to go and teach Advaitacharya a lesson. I mean, a lesson not only in a philosophical lesson, but basically we'll hear what it was. So he and Lord Nityananda proceeded to Shantipur, and on the way to Shantipur, it's an interesting story in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, they stopped in the house of a Shakta. That means someone who worships Shakti. Shakti means someone who worships Durga, someone who worships any of the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so they actually took prasadam in the house of this Shakta. And after they had finished taking prasadam, the Shakta, the man, and actually he was married too, it's called a Shakta Sannyasi or something like that. So he offered Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda something he called happiness. He said, would you like some happiness? And Lord Chaitanya didn't know what he was talking about. But Lord Nityananda did, because Lord Nityananda was older than Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he understood the world pretty well. And he understood it was liquor. So even in those days, people were... Turn it off. Bunk. So even in those days, people were drinking liquor. It was actually... liquor's been there since time immemorial. So it's not bona fide, though. Don't you take it. So anyway, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got so upset when he heard this from Lord Nityananda that it was liquor, that he jumped into the Ganges without even, putting a gamsha on, just in his dhoti. And he and Lord Nityananda swam up the river to reach Shantipur. So they reached Shantipur, to Advaitacharya's house. And Lord Chaitanya said, basically, where's that old man? And he pulled Advaitacharya down and started pummeling him, beating him up. So here is Lord Chaitanya utilizing physical force. Now, this also indicates that we should become angry when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is minimized, blasphemed, and also when the devotees are blasphemed. So anger is appropriate in certain circumstances. I don't advocate beating people up. Generally, the procedure is you defeat them philosophically, or you leave the situation. You don't go cutting someone's tongue out. It would read very bad in the Fiji Times if you did that. But, you should become angry when there's some nonsense being preached. I remember years ago I used to go preach a lot in the different Hindu centers in America. And I would always speak really heavy, quoting this one verse, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivataha Samitvaina Vishyata Sapashandi Bhavatrubam. Some of you know that verse. And the people get really upset with me. And my host would say, don't preach like that. And then after a while, my host would tell me, before I preach, don't say anything bad. But that's actually in our line, not to offend people, obviously, because you're not supposed to preach Krishna consciousness to those who, are offensive, whatever. because the second-class devotees were supposed to, or trying to be second-class devotees, we avoid the envious. But really, that's in our line too. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was known for his cutting technique. You know, he's very, very heavy. And Srila Prabhupada, if you hear his lectures, you listen to some of his lectures, especially when he's preaching to people who have some bogus philosophy, he's very heavy with them. I mean, really cuts them to the chase. Like I remember there's one lecture, he's talking to some professor from India, you know, of Hinduism, and Prabhupada's just like telling him he doesn't know anything. You know, even heavy chastisement. Anyway, don't do it. Prabhupada also said that because he was older, he could get away with it. You know, if you're young, don't do it. If you're older, you have to examine the situation. So anyway, so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was young, and he was beating up Advaitacharya. And Sita Devi, whose appearance day it is today, came out and she said, don't do it, you're killing the old man. And Lord Chaitanya said, I don't care. He's preaching this bogus philosophy. So Lord Chaitanya can be very heavy sometimes. You know, as soft as a rose, as hard as a thunderbolt, like that. So that's the Guru's position also. So eventually Advaitacharya showed some joy at being beaten up by Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya understood it was a trick. And so, anyway, so that's one story with Advaitacharya, Sita Devi, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would regularly go over Advaitacharya's house to eat prasadam that was cooked by Sita Devi. In fact, even after he took sannyas, the first thing Lord Chaitanya did when he was taking sannyas, because he was tricked, is an interesting thing, he had his concept of going to Vrindavan right after he took sannyas, which is natural for a new sannyasi. And Lord Nityananda tricked him into thinking that the Ganges River was the Yamuna. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu jumped in the Ganges River, thinking it was the Yamuna, and then he discovered on the other side there was a Advaitacharya. And he said to Advaitacharya, what are you doing here? And Advaitacharya said, wherever you are is Vrindavan, which is true. And also, the Yamuna River, or the Ganges River, sorry, actually contains the Yamuna River. So it wasn't a lie by Lord Nityananda, because you see the Ganges, the Yamuna empties into the Ganges at one particular point, the Triveni, the Saraswati, Yamuna, Ganges, Triveni, the three rivers. So anyway, so Lord Chaitanya went to Advaitacharya's house, Sita Devi cooked for him, and also Sachimanta was there at the same time. And Sita Devi and Advaitacharya, they went every year to Jagannath Puri to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they also got a chance to cook for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri every year. Sita Devi's son was one of the main acharyas in our disciplic succession. Her son's name was Achyutananda, very, very famous personality. She had three sons, Achyutananda, Krishna Mishra, and Gopal Mishra. So Sita Devi, of course, is expansion ultimately of Srimati Radharani, whose expansion is the Sita Devi, who is the, of course, Srimati Radharani's initial expansions are the wives of Krishna, or the Ashtasakis and the other gopis, and then ultimately the wives of Krishna and Dwarka, and also Sita Devi, who is the wife of Lord Ram. And then ultimately, the Sita Devi, who is the wife of Advaitacharya, is an expansion like that. She is Yogamaya, the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So today is her appearance day. So we are celebrating. It's very important to celebrate these particular days and take notice when the Vaishnava calendars state this. And then also on Saturday, we have, that is tomorrow, we have the appearance day of Lalita Devi. And we'll speak more about Lalita Devi tomorrow. I think primarily we'll speak about Lalita Devi in the class. And then, of course, on Monday we have the glorious appearance of Srimati Radharani. And so we have a lot of stories about Srimati Radharani to relate to the devotees. So let's go on to Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 7, text 3. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Atanyad Api Krishnasya Tokacharitam Adbhutam Manusham Lokam Asadya Tash Jatim Anurundataha Atanyarapi Krishnasya Toka Charitam Adbhutam Manusham Lokam Hasadya Tasjatim Manurum Dataha Atanyarapi Krishnasya Toka Charitam Adbhutam Manusham Lokam Hasadya Tasjatim Manurundataha Anyarapi Krishnasya Toka Charitam Adbhutam Manusham Lokam Hasadya Tasjati Manurundataha. Okay. So ladies, all right. Ata also. Anyat ape, other pastimes also. Krishna Sha, of child Krishna. Toka acharitam atbhutam. They are also wonderful childhood pastimes. Manusham, as if plain as a human child. Alokamasajya, appearing on this planet Earth in human society. Tatjatim, exactly like a human child. Anurum nataha, who was imitating. So translation, please describe other pastimes of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared on this planet Earth, imitating a human child and performing wonderful activities like killing Putana. So purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Maharaj Parikshit requested Shukadev Goswami to narrate other childhood pastimes exhibited by Krishna while playing as a human child. The Supreme Personality of Godhead incarnates at different times in different planets and universes, and according to the nature of those places, He exhibits His unlimited potency. That a child sitting on the lap of his mother was able to kill the gigantic Putana is extremely wonderful for the inhabitants of this planet. But on other planets, the inhabitants are more advanced, and therefore the pastimes the Lord performs there are still more wonderful. Wow. Krishna's appearance on this planet, like a human being, makes us more fortunate than the demigods and the higher planets, and therefore Maharaj Parikshit was very much interested in hearing about him. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shad Ananjana Shalakaya Chakshur and Miditam Yena Tasmai Shigurve Namaha. So I'd like to first explain what appears to be an apparent contradiction in the purport. Prabhupada explains that on other planets where the inhabitants are more advanced, the Lord performs pastimes there that are still more wonderful. That means more wonderful than we see here. And then it says, on this planet, Krishna appears like a human being and makes us more fortunate than the demigods and the higher planets. So if Krishna performs activities more wonderful than the higher planets, that means more wonderful than the activities here. Why are we more fortunate? So I'll explain what I mean. So Prabhupada, by his expression of more wonderful, or still, he actually says still more wonderful, which is interesting. He means opulent. Like really big. For example, you have Sesha Nag. Sesha Nag is holding up all the universes just like grains of mustard seeds. I mean, that's amazing. For Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, as we're going to read here, just to turn over, and from an external viewpoint, it's not amazing. It's wonderful that the Lord can manifest himself as an expansion of his expansion, as Seshanag, and hold up all the universes. It's wonderful, amazing that the Lord can manifest himself as a half-man, half-lion. Incidentally, Lord Nrsingadev's appearance did not occur on this planet. Although some of you, including me, have gone to Ahobalam and seen, what's called the Ugrastamba and everything like that. Anyone here been to Ahobalam? No, I'm the only one, I guess. Where it's supposed to be Lord Nrsingadev's appearance place, he didn't appear on this planet. But, on the other hand, if there's some place in memory of Lord Nrsingadev, like an embassy, that Lord Nrsingadev's pastimes do become manifest in that place, just like in the temple. For example, in the temple here, I don't think that Krishna appeared on this earth planet in Fiji. But still, because we have Krishna appearing here, he's in Fiji. So, same Krishna, no different. So that's why you have sometimes the holy places in India, the things didn't actually happen there. You can go to India and find like maybe 200 places where Hanuman appeared. That's really interesting. And actually, in all those places, he did appear. because there's remembrance and worship of Hanuman. So we're not denigrating or criticizing in any way. So, anyway, so Lord Nrsingadev, who appeared elsewhere in the universe, that's a wonderful thing. I mean, half man, half lion, ferocious, so many hands, tearing apart Hiranyakashipu. Ooh. That's what you generally picture God doing. You know, amazing things like that. Or Mahavishnu, that's a generally God thing. That's an interesting God thing. Where you breathe out and all the universe, you know, let there be light. And God said, let there be light, etc. Like the Bible. That's a God thing. Whereas Krishna, I mean, he does God things too. But generally when he does God things, if you can use that expression, you know, exhibit like extreme power, it's as his expansion, his formed expansion. Even in Vrindavan, when Krishna is killing the demons, you know, here we just read about Putana, and this chapter we're going to read about Chakaptasura, we're going to read about Trinavarta, and so many demons are coming. It's described that Krishna kills those demons as his expansion, even in Vrindavan. So these are all, in that sense, they're considered wonderful. I mean, really big, opulent. However, the most wonderful thing from another perspective, the most fortunate thing from another perspective, is the intimate pastimes. You understand? So you could use the word wonderful to indicate something that's really big, which Prabhupada here is using in this particular context, and something that's small, where Krishna appears as an ordinary person, to enable the devotees to have these super intimate relationships with him. That's most fortunate. In other words, the residents of Vrindavan are more fortunate than the residents of the Vaikuntha planets. Although in the Vaikuntha planets, Krishna is doing like bigger things. And as an expansion of his expansion, you know, portion of a plenary portion of Mahavishnu, he's doing a really big thing. He's the Lord of the universe, and also Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And it's Shirodakshaya Vishnu, he's in everyone's heart. That's really big. But it's more fortunate to worship the Lord in an intimate mood, like the Brajavasis. That's actually the highest fortune. Of course, the residents of the other abodes of the Lord are expansions of the Brajavasis, the eternal residents. Like I mentioned many times before, you have Garuda, the carrier of the Supreme Personality of God and Lord Vishnu. He's an expansion of the coward boy in Vrindavan. So, let me just tighten that up again. So, you know, that's also going on. But still, we understand the most fortunate are the residents of Vrindavan. Vrindavan is called Madhurya Dham. That means the sweet dham. Sweet like honey. Like, isn't it? Like you have madhumaki, you know, that's a honeybee. So Vrindavan has this sweetness you can't find anywhere else, where people actually become superior in a pastime sense to God. They're not actually superior by nature. You know, like I mentioned before, there's this word ontological, which means someone's nature. But they're superior in terms of action. They're chastising Krishna. Mother Yashoda is running after Krishna to beat him with a stick, and Krishna is running away, crying, wiping the mascara from his eyes, the kachra from his eyes. And, you know, in the Damodarashtaka prayers, we hear it. It's just amazing how the Lord of the universe, you know, the one who is controlling everything and manifesting everything, aham sarvasya prabhava tat sarvam pravartate, aham bhira pradapita, and he's crying because his mother's running after him. I mean, it's just like, the contrast is so unbelievable. I mean, if you tell someone outside of the Vedic culture that God is crying because his mother's going to beat him, they'll say, you people are crazy. God is crying because his mother's going to beat him. You know, it just doesn't make sense. So you don't tell them that God is crying because his mother's going to beat them. But Krishna enjoys that more. You know, Krishna enjoys much more being chased by his mother than all the prayers of the Vedas personified. You know, the Vedas of prayer, you know, there's actually a chapter in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam called the prayers of the Vedas personified. So all those Upanishadic prayers, Krishna likes. Yeah, sure, they're all right. But it's when he'd rather be chased by his mother. And he'd rather be threatened by the gopis. Like when Krishna specifically makes arrangement for Radharani to get angry at him. He prefers Radharani to Chandravali. You understand? And Chandravali is very submissive. I mean, sometimes she gets upset, but she doesn't manifest it. But Radharani manifests that, and her friend, Lalita Devi, whose appearance date is tomorrow, really manifests anger. She's hot-tempered. Really hot-tempered. Vishaka's not. Lalita Devi, and Krishna enjoys that because it's play. He enjoys when people forget that he's God. That's called Madhurya Dham. So also, we have another Dham too in our Krishna conscious movement, which is called Audarya Dham. Anyone know where that is? That's Mayapur. You understand? So you got these two dhams, abodes of the Lord, that are very important to Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Madhurya Dham, Audarya Dham. Audarya means like merciful. So in order to approach Madhurya Dham, then you have to approach Audarya Dham. In other words, in order to understand Krishna's sweetness, we need the mercy of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Because Caitanya Mahaprabhu is much more merciful than Krishna. Krishna is described as a Krishna Korana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopeshika Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate. You're an ocean of mercy. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is unlimited mercy. Dina Hina Yata Chilo Harinam Udarila. And the reason Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, becomes more merciful in this particular appearance as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is that Lord Chaitanya is in the mood of Srimati Radharani, whose appearance day we'll be celebrating on Monday. And in the mood of Radharani, he's very soft-hearted. Like generally you see that ladies are more soft-hearted than men. Men can be a little tough. But women, more emotions. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in that mood of Srimati Radharani, so we have to approach, and that's why before we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, which is actually the most intimate mantra, many other mantras are similar, like you have Om. Om means Radha, actually A-U-M, is Radha, Krishna, and the living entity. A-U-M, Om. Most people think it's impersonal. You just chant Om. So, before you chant Hare Krishna, you're supposed to chant the Panchatattva Mahamantra. And there's no offenses in chanting the Panchatattva Mahamantra. Of course, don't try. Don't test it. But at the same time, there are no offenses. And so that frees you from the offenses that you may make, not by accident, not on purpose, that you may make in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So therefore, we have to approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before we can approach Krishna and Radharani, before we can understand the sweetness of Madhurya Dham. And so also approaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu means that we have to be part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching mission. Like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he left home at 24 years of age. I'm not saying that you should all leave home. That's not. But he dedicated himself to the welfare of others. He was traveling all over India, establishing the Holy Dham through his, the holy places in the Holy Dham through his disciples, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, and the other Goswamis. And so the way we can preach or please Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to preach Krishna consciousness, share it to others, with others. Everyone should learn this philosophy nicely, and according to our capacity, then share it and bring people to Krishna's lotus feet. And this will enable us to understand the intimate pastimes. And we try to jump up to this Madhurya Dham, intimate pastimes, in Vrindavan, without going through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, without preaching Krishna consciousness. Actually, Prabhupada said, if one preaches Krishna consciousness, it's on the level of the gopis, which is really interesting. If one tries to do it without going through, one will be unsuccessful and one will revert to material consciousness, material activities, and that's called sahaja, where one jumps up like that. So, Prabhupada said, deserve, then desire. Deserve means we actually please Lord Chaitanya. Then we can really just get into this intimate mood and transfer ourselves from Vaidhi Bhakti to what's called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga means you're performing things spontaneously, and you're also realizing your spiritual identity and practicing on that particular level. So, anyway, this is all I want to talk about today. So any questions or comments about anything I might have said? About Krishna's wonderful pastimes, amazing pastimes, or Krishna's contrasting it with Krishna's intimate pastimes. Any questions? Everybody's resting? Sumuk? What's that? I said that. Yeah, oh, you came a little late for class. Yeah, I gave a whole class before this class on Sita Devi, yeah. Yogamaya. Yeah, we described that. She was Yogamaya, it was Purnamasi, and Purnamasi, of course, is the mother of Sandapani Muni, who is Shri Krishna's spiritual master. Yogamaya Purnamasi is the grandmother of Madhu Mango, Krishna's funny Brahmin friend, who, if you read Lalita Madhava, Vidagna Madhava, and if you're interested in hearing Lalita Madhava and Vidagna Madhava, I have some narrations I did of that are available on ISKCON Desire Tree, which has many different classes by devotees. So Madhu Mango's pastimes are specifically, let's say, expanded on in the Vidagna Madhava. The Vidagna Madhava is a work by Rupa Goswami. It's a drama by Srila Rupa Goswami, in which he gets into a lot of the interactions in Braj between the intimate devotees. So very interesting. Very interesting play. And it's nothing that we couldn't hear. It's not something like really, let's say, too intimate for us. It's called the Vidagna Madhava. The Lalita Madhava will be reciting some things from the Lalita Madhava on Radharani's appearance day. It deals with Radharani's appearance and also what happens when Krishna leaves Vrindavan. How Radharani basically expands herself as Satyabhama in Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka. So that's the Lalita Madhava. They're both plays by Srila Rupa Goswami. So any other questions or comments? Yeah.
Like sometimes playing that our senses are not controlled by us. We get carried away. The mind also goes that way.
Yeah, so.
So it is, then I realized that it is not the mind and the senses, it is the intelligence which actually makes the mind go there, the senses.
It's your desire. We have to take personal responsibility when our mind and senses get dragged away, because we're desiring. The mind and senses, they just follow the desire of the living entity. And if you desire Krishna, then you can vacho vegam, manasa krota vegam, jiva vegam, ura pashta vegam. You can, it may be difficult, I understand, but you just don't give in to them. Nowadays, people like to blame other circumstances for their own lackings. Why did you get angry? Because I have a problem with anger. We know you have a problem with anger because you decided to get angry. We have the ability. People are becoming nowadays very much disempowered in the sense that they're given excuses for their bad behavior. Why do you act crazy? Because I'm crazy. Why are you in Maya? Because I'm in Maya. Why are you lusty? Because I'm in Maya. It's just an excuse. You have the ability, I have the ability, we all have the ability to change our activities. It may be difficult, it may be a struggle, yeah. But we have that ability. Everyone is given that ability. Now, Krishna is reciprocating. Matat smritir jnanam aponam cha. Krishna is giving intelligence according to one's desire. So if you're getting faulty intelligence in the mode of passion or ignorance, that's because of your desire. You're responsible. That's why there's the law of karma. People are responsible for their actions. Right? Can't say, sometimes in Christianity they say the devil made me do it. And we say Maya made me do it. We say the same thing. Just use the language is a little bit different. Maya made me do it. Maya's so strong. One time, of course, there's that famous story Prabhupada told, where the king asked the sage, why is Maya so strong? And the sage, instead of saying anything, he ran up to a pillar in the palace and he grabbed it and said, let me go, let me go. So that is our fault. If we're in Maya, our fault. I'm going to be compassionate, I won't smash you for it, but I'll tell you it's your fault. And you're the one who has to give it up. You can't, many times we've spoken that you can't just expect Krishna just to take away all your material desires, like give you anesthesia for your heart. Just like when I had my operation, they gave me anesthesia, I didn't feel anything. Obviously, I had no desires. So there's no anesthesia for the heart in that particular sense that you say, oh, Krishna, let me wake up tomorrow with no lust. It doesn't work like that. There's 5 factors of action. You're controlling most of those factors. Krishna, the super soul, is one of the factors. So you control the place, you control the desire, the activity, everything. So you have to take responsibility. By what is impelled to act as if by force. It is lust only born of the material contact with the material mode of passion, later transformed into wrath. That's Bhagavad Gita. So you have to be careful about your association. Association means not only the people that you're associating with, but what you're contemplating. If you contemplate something, you're associating with it. Jayata Apumsam Sangostesha Vijayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Krona Vijayate. You understand? You start looking at something. Like if you look, let's say if you have some money in your bank account and you see this car, or even if you don't have money but you can get a loan, and you see this car like advertised, nowadays they have these big signs in Fiji that flash at you, buy this, buy that. So you see this car, and you meditate on it, you meditate on it, meditate on it. Then you're going to even spend money that you don't have to buy it. For example, confirmed, one of my disciples in the United States, he's in charge of the finance department for a big bank. And I was asking, when people buy cars, what is it like? He says, well, they spend money they don't have. You understand? So someone will spend 50% of their income to pay off a car on a loan that they don't need. They could be driving around in a Prius, like some like Priuses. Cheaper car. Even in America, it's a cheaper car. So, but still, you know, because they're contemplating that and they get attached to it. And we all have to be careful about that. Contemplating things. And then, you know, you'll misspend money, you'll engage. You know, of course, that's not an illicit activity, but it's a waste of your effort and Krishna's energy. You'll get a house that's too big for you. Like in America, everybody gets these giant, what we call McMansions. Giant houses. Some of you have been in America, like Krishna's been around. You see these big houses, isn't it? With big lawns. And there's just a man and his wife living in the stupid house. You know, how many bedrooms can they sleep in? But they're contemplating, and also keeping up with their friends. So now there's a counter movement in Australia, New Zealand, and in the United States called tiny houses. You heard about that? Tiny houses, like little tiny, like 20 meters or something like that, where people live in. Anyway, so the point is, don't contemplate sense objects, then you'll be protected. All right, on that happy note, all glories to the Prabhupada.